Hi, I'm Kirsty. I'm an artist, illustrator, and designer, and I'm based in Essex in the UK. I've been doing art obviously kind of my whole life, but I graduated in 2010 and I've been working as a designer ever since. But on the side of that, I've often done either illustration or art as well, or kind of both at different times. I've done bits of freelance work here and there, and as well created some of my own products that I've then taken to art markets. But I've only done a few of them, and I really struggle with getting myself out there. Basically, I can be quite awkward, which I'm sure will come across on these videos, and things like that can be quite hard. But I'm now in my late 30s, and I really just want to make a go of it. And just before Christmas, I actually finally invested in a new Apple Pencil around 2019, kind of really taking a push. And then I ended up getting pregnant, and there was obviously COVID and everything. And that kind of put a little bit of a halt on it. And then when I was ready to sort of start working again, I did start doing some more illustrations and drawing and art. And then at some point, my Apple Pencil broke. Now, if you don't know, these actually are quite expensive. Well, to me anyway. This was ended up being £100, and I put off buying it. And at the time, I was also doing a lot of drawing and oil painting, and I'd kind of been focusing on that whilst I was trying to do some freelance design work, as well as my job and as well as parenting. And then it came to, yeah, just before Christmas, and I thought I really wanted to get back into doing illustration. And I kind of knew that if I got the pencil, it would focus me a bit and I'd be able to draw on my iPad again. And that's kind of what's happened. So the plan worked. I'm really back into doing my illustrations on my iPad. Um, Unfortunately, the iPad itself is from maybe 2016, something like that. It's very old. I'm worried it's going to break at any point, but there we go. It's still working, and that's the main thing. I've basically now been working on art prints for it, greeting cards, and then bookmarks as well. They're the kind of core products. I'll also sometimes do some postcards and stickers. I'll show you a little bit of it now, and then in the video you're going to see me working on that last week. Okay, so I have some examples here. So that's an illustration I did on my iPad, and then I printed it out as an art print. It does translate quite well, this sort of style. These are some bookmarks I had made previously, back when I was focusing on it in, I'm going to say about 2023. So, oops. These are my newer cards, and you'll see me making some of them in the video to prep for the art market. And this is like, for example, an older one based on a drawing, as in pencil, whereas these are done digitally. And there's something about digital that enables me to kind of add a bit more colour and play around with the hand lettering as well. Okay, so let's get to the video, and you'll see me just working behind the scenes. And then I'm hoping to record another one today, but I'm going to have a little bit less time. So in the past, I've sometimes had some art prints printed, especially the Giclée ones, which are like a fine art quality print. But a few years ago, I've got the Canon IX6850, and it's a really nice quality printer. And I've been able to then print at home art prints and greeting cards and things like that, especially on reflecting on this year and kind of getting started again and looking at how I want to be able to do things. It makes sense for me getting started to be able to make things at home. I can then test them and see how they sell and resonates. Whereas in the past, when I've ended up buying stock, I've now ended up with quite a lot of bookmarks, for example, that I need to eventually try and sell. So when you get things printed, often there is minimum order quantities, or you have to kind of weigh up the cost, and especially with things like variations. So when I got them printed, I had to commit to a certain number of each design, and I had to be really selective as to which ones I thought were worth printing. So this year I've decided to try and make them at home, which I've started doing. And it just means that I print them off at high quality, laminate them, cut them, and then round the corners. But yeah, going back to the art prints, that's one of the easier ones to do. If you've got a nice quality printer, and you just have to play around with the settings. So to be honest, the playing around with the settings and trying to get the colours that I wanted and the quality took way longer than I would have liked it to. I'd already done some on a previous night and played around with various settings, and then the same on this morning. So bearing in mind that I've got a limited amount of time that I can work, I think I forgot to mention that in the introduction, but I have just one day a week that allows me time to work on kind of my own projects and my own creative things. So to spend a lot of the morning on the print settings is quite frustrating, but I was really pleased in the end with how they came out. So I'm on a MacBook, and I found that I had to reinstall the drivers, reconnect my printer, make sure it wasn't set as AirPrint, and then it allowed me to have more control over setting paper type and the print quality. So that's just something to be mindful of, as obviously you want a really crisp color, a really crisp print, and a really nice colors to come out. Always there's going to be a slight discrepancy with how your screen looks versus how the print comes out. But yeah, as I said, I was happy with how I got them in the end. And this bit's just showing me doing my packaging. I put them on a grey board, which helps keep the print not from getting creased and things like that, both for transporting but also for someone buying it or if I am sending them out. I put them into a cellophane bag. It is a compostable one, however, I believe that's a little bit of a, what's the word? Not greenwashing, but I think that's like commercial, but still, I guess it's a slightly better option and it keeps the print protected. So I seal them in, and then I just put a little sticker on the back that I printed at home using Avery labels, and it's got my QR code, and that then means that if someone's bought it, then they can check out my website and things like that. So I think that's quite a good way to do it as well. For my greeting cards, I print them on a slightly satin finished paper, and that's just one-sided, so then the inside's plain, that it means people can write easily. So again, I had to play around with the different settings for the colours and take a note basically of what I liked. I always print at the best quality and try and select a paper type that will match the paper or cardstock that I'm printing on. You'll see me here, I'm basically cutting them down to size and scoring in the middle, and I've got this cutter and this seems to work quite well, to be fair. It just allows me to do both things at once. Because I'm a designer, I end up printing them just one to each page with the crop and bleed, which is quite helpful for me to be able to see everything. But I do think when I've seen other people do it, they kind of put two to a page to maximise the paper space, so I might need to look into that. Once I've prepped all the cards, that's when, kind of like the art prints, I pop them into one of the cellophane bags with an envelope, and I've just chosen the craft style envelope for everything. It keeps it consistent. Sorry if you can hear my cat. She's not very happy that I've currently shut her out the room just so that I can record this. I've been working as a designer professionally since 2010, so this recent work's been quite fun and interesting to kind of pair in a bit more design thinking and how my illustration work can actually work well for products, whereas in the past, I've maybe just focused on the drawing and then added it to things. So I've really been more mindful of like what might appeal to people, and so that's where the kind of letterings come in and adding some puns, which is quite fitting for me. well, when I'm at home, and I quite often come up with silly little rhymes and say silly things basically. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun actually, and something a bit different for me. Also, when I did then have the art market this weekend, it did draw some comments, and I think it was resonating quite well with people, which was really nice to see that what I'm trying here is actually connecting, I guess. As I've mentioned as well, kind of before where I started, I've done a lot of like pencil drawings throughout my life basically, and that was kind of where a lot of my illustration was focused. So where working digitally, it's kind of enabled me to be a bit freer with adding colour. I think I'm not really someone that gets on that well with watercolours. It feels too risky, I guess, and you can easily mess something up. I've done it a bit, but I've always preferred to do the kind of base drawing and then add colour digitally, either like through Photoshop or now using the Procreate app. Um, and yeah, I think the vibrancy is just it's definitely got more appeal, really. um, and I probably have to thank a little bit where I've been doing the paintings in kind of focus starting on that from about 2024 is doing a lot of oil paintings, and that I was comfortable working with colour, so I've been able to bring that in now as well. I know there's a lot of conversation online, and particularly if you're a new illustrator, you might be worried about things like finding your style and things like that. I'll say for myself, it's definitely something that's always been on my mind. And sometimes I think to my detriment, I've been kind of like, right, I must stick to my style that I've now found and things like that. But it does naturally evolve through time. And I think it's always good to be open to evolving it as well and bringing in other elements and influences. So, yeah, I think if you're a new illustrator, try not to worry too much about being set on your style. It will come with time. And I know it's easy to get caught up in worrying about what your work looks like, but and the kind of having that consistency in your style. I was only prepping a few of each card of the newer card designs to be able to take to the art market, and once I'd done them, I wanted to get on my computer and I imported basically the artwork of this collection, which is, I don't think I mentioned, it's called A Pause for Celebration, so kind of that play on words basically. So yeah, bringing in the artwork and creating a sticker layout. Um, I recently bought a cricket, I'm not sure how you say it. And I want to be able to try making stickers with them. So yeah, I was just practicing laying out different things. You can see me here looking at previous card backings that I'd made for my individually hand cut stickers, and working with that as the basis to create this new layout of a kind of the backing where I was going to add the stickers. So for this one, I'm thinking more like the kiss cut style of sticker. So it'll be on a paper sheet, and each sticker will be peelable from that. Whereas in the past, where I didn't have a sticker maker or anything like that, I was just printing it onto matte vinyl, laminating it, and then hand cutting and then putting them into little pouches basically for sale. So yeah, I'm working on the layout here, and in a minute I'll start to import the artwork and play around with laying it out and seeing what can fit in. So I've done a number of designs within this collection or illustrations, and wanted to try and maximize getting them all on the on the sheet, which is an A6 size. Okay, so in preparation for the art market, I realised I needed a good way to be able to display my bookmarks and stickers. So I've got a nice rack already for greeting cards and various ways to display my art prints. But back when I'd done my last market, which was about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I had just kind of shoved the bookmarks into one place, and same with the stickers, like as in into a little basket, which made it really hard for people to look through, and they couldn't at a glance see the ones that I had done. So I ordered these acrylic display cases, which I'm having to put together here. Oh, that again, it took way longer than I would have liked, bearing in mind the short amount of time that I have each Wednesday to work on my art. But there we go, it needed to be done, and it did end up working really well for the displays. At this point, I looked at my watch, about 40 minutes left of my day to be able to do some drawing. So I squeezed that in here, and unfortunately, my camera actually cut out at this point. It ran out of battery. So I think I've only got a bit of this recorded. But I'm working on sheep illustration, which was the final one I needed to finish for my A Pause for Celebration collection. And yeah, you can see me, I've got the reference image here. So the bird actually was on this sheep when I took that photo, which I thought was pretty funny. And I decided to go with that for the illustration rather than cutting it out. And as I said before, I work quite realistically, so it's pretty important for me to have some good reference images to draw from. I've tried a lot with this recent one to use my own photos. I'm always, when I'm out and about, especially seeing animals, taking pictures of them, or things like nature as well, always catches my eye and I end up taking photos. So I've got a huge image bank to work from, but sometimes I do find images on something like Pexels or Pixabay, where you can work from the images as well for as references. But yeah, I'm just going in here and I kind of work in quite a traditional way, in a way, I think. So I'm still using my Apple Pencil with a brush that kind of looks like a pencil, and I'm drawing similar to how I would if it was on paper. Now it is slightly different because you've got the glass and it's a little bit slippery. I did once try to buy one of these screen protectors that are supposed to make your screen feel more like paper, but it ended up peeling. I bought a cheaper one, and it just wasn't that good. It didn't really feel right either. So I've ended up taking that off. But I think when it comes to me buying a new iPad at some point, I think at that point I'd probably invest now in one of the better quality screen protectors that makes it feel like paper, which I think would just be nice for me, as I do like to still work analog as well as digital, and I just like building up, as you can see here, kind of doing the shading like I would with pencil and adding details in that way too. thank you for watching my first ever vlog. Hopefully we can only improve from here. If you liked what you saw and if you like my work, it'd be great if you could follow along. So give this video a like and a follow. Thank you. Bye.